Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing Fortnite's newest update, Update 8.10. This was always scheduled to be the first major update of Season 8, so we were expecting it to contain some pretty major changes, and it definitely didn't disappoint. We have an interesting change that could fix some of Fortnite's biggest performance problems, major changes to certain weapons, a new vehicle being added into the game, a major change to the way vending machines work, and some other really interesting stuff in here as well. It should be an awesome video, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so even though this update contains a lot of big ticket changes, I want to start with something that really isn't being given enough attention. It isn't a new weapon, new item, or any kind of balance change. It's actually a performance-based improvement to the game. So towards the bottom of the update notes, there's a section that's simply titled Performance. And the first bullet point in that section says the following. Fix some instances of packet loss that could occur with certain ISPs that are prone to reordering UDP network packets. Now don't worry, I don't really expect you guys to understand any of that because I sure as heck didn't either. But I did some research on this specific topic, most of it coming directly from a post made by an Epic Games employee about all the impacts that packet loss has, and here's a much more understandable summary of the effect that the change will hopefully have on the game. So when you're playing Fortnite, all your in-game actions send little chunks of information to the Fortnite servers, and those chunks of information are known as packets. Unfortunately, not every packet will get processed and sent through to the servers at exactly the same time it happens. So sometimes a packet will arrive at the game server a little sooner or a little later than initially expected. Before this update, what the Fortnite servers would do is discard the packets that arrived at the server in the incorrect order. So just as a quick example, let's just say you send packets 1, 2, 3, and 4 to the server in that exact order. But instead of arriving at the server as 1, 2, 3, 4, they unfortunately arrive in the order 1, 2, 4, 3. In that example, Fortnite would have simply discarded whatever action occurred in packet number 3 as if it never actually happened in-game. According to the Epic employee that made this post, the issue of packets arriving out of order and getting discarded is the leading cause of ghost shots in Fortnite. If you don't know what that is, it's when you get a hit marker on a player, but the game doesn't actually register it or deal any damage. Plus, according to some other comments in the thread, the way Epic used to handle packet loss is a major cause of other potential issues, including lag, frame rate hitches, rubber banding, and some other various problems concerning hit detection of shots. So it's yet to be seen how much this change to reordering network packets will actually affect Fortnite as a whole, because I know earlier this morning a lot of players were actually getting higher ping and packet loss than usual, but after looking into it, Epic basically concluded that it was just a visual issue. So I usually include bug and performance fixes at the end of videos like this, but I feel like if this was executed as well as Epic was planning, it could actually end up being the most important change in the entire update. Moving on, Update 8.10 contained a decent shakeup to the assault rifles in Fortnite. First off, the common version of the infantry rifle was totally removed from the game. Like we've seen a lot recently in these patches, that's a weapon/item being removed from the game that I don't think a single Fortnite player is unhappy about. But the more notable change regarding ARs was actually to the heavy assault rifles. First off, the rarity was dropped from gold, purple, and blue to blue, green, and gray. Due to that, the base damage for the new rarities of the heavy AR were dropped to 40, 38, and 36. Now what's interesting here is that the damage was dropped lower than it probably should have been, and here's what I mean by that. Before this update, the gold heavy AR had a base damage of 48, the purple heavy AR had a base damage of 46, and the blue heavy AR had a base damage of 44. So clearly, each drop down in rarity led to a simple reduction by 2 to the base damage of the weapon. If they kept that same pattern, the blue heavy AR would have still had 44 base damage, the green would have had 42, and the white would have had 40. But instead, it's actually 40, 38, and 36, so each rarity had 4 less base damage than what we would have expected. I think it's a good thing to have another low rarity usable AR in the game, mainly because that means less infantry rifles, but I'm interested to see if those damage nerfs possibly end up being a little too much and the heavy AR loses a lot of its usability. And the rumor that's kind of going around in the community right now is that Epic did this so they can add the new purple and gold rarity infantry rifles into the game. The files for that were discovered in the first Season 8 update, so I guess we'll see if that ends up being true. Next up, we have a really interesting overhaul to the way vending machines work in Fortnite, so here's a summary of the changes to that. First off, vending machines no longer have a material cost. However, each vending machine will be destroyed after claiming an item. Common and uncommon vending machines have been removed from the game, and mounted turrets have been removed from gold vending machines. So the gist of this is that vending machines will still offer 3 different items, but now you'll be able to get one of those items for free. I think this is an interesting change, and I also think I know why Epic did it. First off, vending machines in general just weren't really used all that much, but mainly it was because vending machines had the potential to be super overpowered in competitive modes and events. Movement items are super overpowered in competitive Fortnite, so if a team found a vending machine that had either launch pads or Rift to Go's in them, they would just sit there and keep farming materials to get as many of them as possible. But now, because you can only get one item from each vending machine, that's no longer possible. And also, now that vending machines can only be blue, purple, or gold rarity, I could see a lot of people really taking advantage of them, especially in early game. You could basically land on a gold vending machine and have a good chance of getting a gold scar or gold pump in literally the first 5 seconds of a match. Because of this, I'll throw an updated map on the screen right now that shows all the vending machine locations in Fortnite. Now we'll talk about the new vehicle item added in Update 8.10, the Baller. It's a single-seat vehicle that's found at expedition outposts and around pirate camps. You can use the attached grappler and boost functionality to pull yourself up cliffs or swing through the trees. While using it, the driver is protected from damage, but the Baller is vulnerable to enemy weapon fire and it has a total of 300 health. Based on what I've seen so far, the Baller is almost like a way weaker and more balanced version of the plane. It's pretty fast and really good for rotations because you're protected by it and it can absorb up to 300 total damage before being destroyed, but only one player can ride in the Baller. It's a lot weaker than the plane, it's a lot slower than the plane, it's on the ground instead of in the air, and it has no offensive capabilities. I wouldn't be surprised if the Baller ends up actually being pretty powerful for endgame rotations in competitive Fortnite, but for public match Fortnite, it mainly just seems like a wacky, fun, and pretty well-balanced form of additional mobility. Like I said last week with the treasure map, this is a much better addition to the game than what we usually get in these weekly updates. And here's a map of all the Baller locations in the Fortnite world. Update 8.10 also contained a few changes to the test events, aka ranked mode in Fortnite. First off, they added another solos and duos test event which will run 24/7 until midnight on March 19th. There were 3 minor updates to the scoring system of both solos and duos. For solos, 2 points will now be awarded for reaching 15th place when it was previously for 10th place. And for duos, the bus fare has been increased from 2 points to 3 points, and 2 points will now be awarded after reaching 7th place when it was previously 5th place. On top of that, there's another new ranked event called the Scallywag Duos Cup, which has a $100,000 prize pool. It will take place on March 16th and 17th, and the way you qualify is by being in the top 3% globally of either the solo or duo gauntlet test event as of midnight on March 16th. Another interesting change is that the max time required to find a game is no longer capped at 8 minutes. This will ensure that lobbies now have a lot more similarity between the points of the players in the lobby, but the negative of this is that if you have a ton of points, your queue times are going to be pretty crazy. There was also an interesting change regarding credit for eliminations. Elimination credit is now awarded to the last player to deal damage in cases of logging out, self-elimination, and eliminations due to storm. The current time threshold is 15 seconds for that. That's a really awesome change because nothing is more frustrating than getting someone to really low HP and then they die to the storm or accidentally die from fall damage. In the past, you wouldn't get credit for that kill, but now you will. And the final thing that's worth mentioning from the update are the small adjustments to the clingers and the treasure maps in Fortnite. For the clingers, the max stack size has been reduced from 10 to 6, which is definitely good news. And for the treasure maps, the drop rate from floor loot was dropped from 0.53% to 0.27%, and the drop rate from chest loot was dropped from 3.25% to 1.65%. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. I want to know, since this update, have you guys noticed improvements when it comes to things like ping, packet loss, lag, ghost shots, hitches, and hit detection? Or is it just as bad or even worse than it was before the update? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.